Hello, everyone, and welcome to this latest session of Ask Dr. Sharon. I'm Sharon Wall, the Hashimoto Health Coach, and I'm delighted that you're joining me today, either watching the live program or watching the replay. So, welcome. The reason behind the Ask Dr. Sharon sessions are to answer any questions you might have about autoimmune conditions in general and Hashimoto's in particular. So if what I've been talking about either today or in previous episodes have sparked some questions, either put them in the comments below or you can actually get in touch with me. And at the end of today's session, I'll put up on the screen how you can schedule a free 20-minute call with me. Okay, let's get started. Now, over the past little while, I've had some clients and friends talk about intermittent fasting, and something that I have done in the past as well. And it's been around for a very long time, and for many people, it can bring some potential benefits like weight loss, can reduce inflammation, can improve your insulin sensitivity. But if you've got Hashimoto's or indeed some other autoimmune condition, but in particular Hashimoto's, it's essential to approach intermittent fasting with care, as there are some very unique challenges and considerations that come into play. Okay, so let's first just talk a bit about what intermittent fasting is. Because there are many different ways to approach the practice. Now, in general, it refers to specific eating patterns where periods of fasting or not eating are alternated with eating windows. Okay, that's pretty much the way most people eat. But the detail is in the length and the timing of the fasting period. Now, the most common formats are what they call the 16-8 method. So that's when you fast for 16 hours and you eat all your meals within an 8-hour period. Okay. Now, there can be all different combinations of those ratios of fasting to eating window, but that one's one of the most common. And then there's the 5-2 method. So it's a little bit different. This is where you're eating normally 5 days a week and then significantly reducing your intake for 2 days a week. Now, these 2 days don't need to be consecutive. You can space them out. So obviously that can be a little bit more challenging not to eat for a whole day, or just to make sure that you've got minimum nutrition. Now, the impact of intermittent fasting is going to vary widely depending on things like your age, your activity level, your metabolism, and importantly, what your thyroid health is all about. Okay, now for people with Hashimoto's, intermittent fasting benefits and risks are both heightened. The thyroid, it's because the thyroid regulates metabolism, energy, and hormones. So basically, your thyroid, as you probably already know, affects almost every major body function. Okay, and fasting can impact these processes in ways that can either help or actually challenge you if you have Hashimoto's. Okay, so let's look at some of the potential benefits of intermittent fasting, especially for Hashimoto's. So the first thing is it's possible to reduce inflammation. Now, Hashimoto's involves chronic inflammation, and this is from an autoimmune response. And there's been some studies that suggest that intermittent fasting could lower overall inflammation levels, which will then help reduce flare-ups. Okay, that's all good. Well, how can it do this? Well, if you have gut dysbiosis, which is common, in fact, probably everyone who has an autoimmune condition is going to have some type of gut dysbiosis. The process of eating can actually trigger inflammation, and it does this via food sensitivities, toxins in food, eating mostly processed food, or having maldigested food. All of those are triggers for inflammation. And this benefit often depends on how the fasting is structured and on an individual's current health status. So obviously, if you've got poor health to start with, fasting for 12 to 14 hours is probably not going to have the best effect for healing. Now, following on for this is that fasting can support gut health. So fasting periods are going to allow for digestive rest, which supports gut repair. So if your body doesn't have to spend a lot of time digesting food, it can then spend that time in actually healing. So in particular for an autoimmune condition, you want the healing to focus on the gut lining, okay? Because one of the hallmarks or one of the essential precondition conditions for an autoimmune condition is having what we call a leaky gut or a increased permeability of the gut lining, and that is through damage. So if you want to heal, you need to heal that. And this is something that fasting for several hours to allow your body to repair is actually going to be a huge benefit. Now, another benefit is improved insulin sensitivity. Now, Hashimoto's and insulin resistance are often linked together, as thyroid hormone imbalances can afford blood sugar regulation. Now, intermittent fasting, particularly time-restricted eating, can help improve your insulin sensitivity, so helpfully stabilizing your blood sugar levels and possibly improving your energy. Now, there are some caveats with this. So let's look at some of the possible risks of intermittent fasting with Hashimoto's. So the very first one is you possibly increasing the stress on your adrenal glands. So fasting it can be a stressor on the body. And for those with Hashimoto's, where adrenal function is often compromised, fasting can trigger a stress response. Okay, now I mentioned it in many sessions before that if you have high stress levels, now this can be physical stress, it can be psychological or emotional stress, or more physiological stress from what the body's going through, that is going to cause your adrenal glands to secrete cortisol. Now, heightened levels of cortisol are going to block the conversion of T4 hormone to T3. So T3, as you know, is the active hormone. So any activity that's going to increase the stress on the body is going to increase secretion of cortisol, which, if you follow the little chain reaction, is going to further impact your thyroid. Okay, so I guess one of the take-homes, which I'll discuss a little bit later, is if you're going to start intermittent fasting, you need to do it in a gentle fashion first. Now, the next thing is its potential impact on your metabolic rate. Now, with hypothyroidism, your metabolism already is going to be slower, okay, because that's what the thyroid does. It regulates it, and if it's sluggish, then everything else in the body is sluggish as well. So there's some research that suggests that prolonged fasting or extreme calorie restriction can reduce the metabolic rate even further. And honestly, this is going to have some really severe effects. You reduce the metabolism, it's not just on, your ability to burn up calories. It also is in the secretion of essential hormones and enzymes that the body needs. It's going to be digestion and absorption of nutrients, things that you need in order for your body to heal. So this is one thing that you have to be very, very careful about, is any time when you start a longer fasting period is to monitor your energy levels. Okay. Now, the next possible thing you've really got to look out for is just your blood sugar and energy fluctuations. As I mentioned before, if you have Hashimoto's, you can often experience blood sugar imbalances, and fasting can sometimes lead to hypoglycemia, so that's low blood sugar. And when that happens, you start off feeling really crappy, but it can have some pretty severe health effects as well. So if you're fasting and you start to notice dizziness or shakiness or more irritability than normal, this is a sign that maybe this fasting regime just isn't working well for you. Another thing is its effect on hormonal imbalances. Now, because of the sequence of events that happens with a slower or a sluggish thyroid, you know that Hashimoto's is going to impact your entire endocrine system. So your endocrine system is everything that produces your hormones. And sometimes intermittent fasting can exacerbate hormonal imbalances, especially if you're combining that with high stress, irregular cycles, or any other hormone issues. And estrogen and progesterone imbalances are common in women with Hashimoto's, and fasting can sometimes intensify these issues. Okay, so I've kind of laid out some of the pros and cons of that. So if you're interested in trying intermittent fasting, please start out very, very gently. Okay. And the easiest way to do this is, we'll start off with no after dinner snacking. Don't eat late in the evening. So if you can stop eating in the evening and eat a little bit early, you've automatically increased your fasting window. Okay. And you really haven't had to think too much about it. Okay. And that's the thing that I would start off first. But I think even before you start even considering intermittent fasting, please clean up your diet first. That's going to have the most significant effect on your healing, is to clean up your diet. And then after you are eating whole foods, you're not bringing in extra toxins into your body, then start experimenting with maybe longer fasting windows. So after you've put in, let's say, just stopped your snacking, okay, then you can start with maybe increasing your fasting windows. So start off with maybe a 12-12 approach, where you're fasting for 12 hours and then eating your meals within the leftover 12-hour period. It's a gentler approach, okay? And it can have some of the benefits without overly stressing the body. And it's probably a little bit easier to put into your lifestyle. Next, really listen to your body's signals. Pay attention to any signs of fatigue, irritability, increased hunger during fasting periods. I mean, these are things that you probably expect to feel a little bit hungry, but if you start to feel unwell, it's better to shorten your fasting window again, or try fasting every other day instead of every day. Okay, the idea is gentle first. Next suggestion is to balance your meals with protein and healthy fats. So consume balanced meals. These are going to include your protein, your healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, low glycemic carbohydrates. This is going to help stabilize your blood sugar, which again will help start to support thyroid hormone production, which is going to depend on nutrients like iodine, selenium, and zinc. So healthy eating, but also pairing protein and healthy fats will also alleviate some of the hunger pangs as well. And it goes without saying to stay hydrated. And actually, I don't think I need to go into too much more than that. It's just to stay hydrated. But again, do not drink a lot of liquids during your meals. Do that prior to meals, between meals, but not during a meal, because that tends to dilute your stomach acid, and so that you're not going to be digesting and absorbing particularly well. You can do things like cycle your fasting days. So maybe fasting 2 or 3 days per week rather than daily. So it can provide the benefits without causing burnout or increasing your stress and irritability about the whole thing. And last, before you start doing something extreme, especially when you have an autoimmune condition, is consider getting some professional guidance. someone who is familiar with thyroid health, that is invaluable, and work with them to tailor a fasting plan that's going to work for you, but also to monitor what's going on with your health. Because, as we mentioned, this can have some really good effects, but it can also really impair your healing and make you feel even worse. Okay, so just the takeaway here, yes, intermittent fasting can offer some benefits. It can help reduce inflammation and improve your blood sugar balance, but you need to be careful with it. Listen to what your body is telling you. You might consider shorter fasting windows. Make sure you have balanced meals, healthy meals, hydration, and working with someone who knows how to monitor and make some reasonable suggestions for you. Okay. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier is that if you've got some questions that you would like answered, well, number one, you can put them in the comments below and I will work on them for the next session. Alternatively, if you've got something that perhaps is a little bit more personal to you, what I'm going to do, let's see, I just put my link to my scheduler in the comments below, and I'm also going to show you my, there, it's the banner is up. If you want, I offer a free mini consult. It's about 20 minutes long, and we can discuss the concerns you have about your health, and I can help you with some of the first steps to get you in the right direction. Okay, and I'm happy to do this. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you have a really good week, and until next time, bye for now.